Taste this shit, sin.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the JT Sports Podcast. I'm your host, JT. There has never been a more disrespected and forgotten Super Bowl champion than the Seattle Seahawks. Normally, when you are in the Seahawks situation, all the media is talking about is, can you repeat? Can you go back to back? Instead of talking about the Seahawks winning the Super Bowl, coming into this season, the defending Super Bowl champions, all the media wants to talk about is the Los Angeles Rams and how they're the Super Bowl champions and waiting. With the way the Rams are being talked about, you might as well just go ahead and hand them the Lombardi right now. There's no point in playing the games. It's just so disrespectful how the talk, instead of it being about can the Seahawks repeat, it's been about how the Rams are just this inevitable Super Bowl champion and there's nobody that can stop them. I think the Seahawks might have something to say about that. I feel the Seahawks should feel incredibly disrespected with how the spotlight has been taken away from them to crown a Super Bowl champion that hasn't been crowned yet. We'll dive into it a lot more, along with the Justin Herbert Apologists already being in mid-season form. The season hasn't even kicked off yet. The playoffs are 6 months from happening, and you already have people making excuses for Justin Herbert. We'll dive into my thoughts on Justin Herbert, why this is a very big season, not just for him, but the entire Chargers franchise. I want to project who the top defenses this season are going to be. I got thoughts on the New York Jets. They may not be a threat now, but they could be one later down the road. The NFC South right now is a 2-team race. Normally, there are 4 teams in division, but in the NFC South, there really are just 2. And the Falcons, I don't really think they're going to be in the mix, and I'll dive into why I just can't trust the Falcons this year to make some noise. If you live, eat, breathe, sleep, and die football, congratulations. You have arrived at the right place. We're talking all things football, NFL, college football, 24/7, 365 days throughout the year. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell icon so you can get your daily football fix in. Shout out to everybody that's tuned in, wherever you're watching, YouTube, the replay, you're listening on Apple, Spotify. Appreciate you for tuning in. Go ahead, share this episode, subscribe. If you're listening on Apple and Spotify, give us a 5-star review as well if you enjoy. And without further ado, let's dive into it. I want to project the top 10 defenses in the NFL for this season. These rankings are not based on last season. These rankings are based on how good I believe these defenses are going to be at the end of the year. So this is me projecting who the top 10 defenses are going to be once this season ends. And starting off at number 10, I have the Kansas City Chiefs. I know that their defense has a lot of new faces on it. I know that they lost a lot this offseason, but they drafted insanely well. Mesur Delane, Peter Woods, R. Mason Thomas, their first 3 draft picks, I think, are going to step up and have huge roles for them. And these could be 3 of the best rookies in the NFL on the defensive side of the ball. It may sound like I'm glazing a little bit, but you got to give Steve Spagnuolo the benefit of a doubt. He's one of the best defensive coordinators in NFL history. Last season, the Chiefs were 6th in points per game allowed. They were 10th in yards per game allowed. And they were also very good in the red zone. So even with the overwhelming amount of departures and new faces that the Chiefs have coming in, I believe that a lot of their rookies are going to hit the ground running early. And you still got guys like Nick Bolton, Chris Jones, Alohi Gilman, who you signed in free agency. So it's not like the Chiefs don't have talent at all. It's just a lot of unfamiliar faces. I have them at 10 because I trust Steve Spagnuolo to have a lot of those new pieces, a lot of those young rookies playing very well early. I got the Minnesota Vikings with the 9th best defense this season. Sure, they don't have a lot of household names, but Brian Flores arguably is the best defensive coordinator in the game. I still don't know how long it's going to take for him to get another head coaching opportunity, but he definitely deserves one with how well the Vikings defense played last year. They were top 10 points per game allowed. They had the 3rd best pass defense in the league. And they are one of the most aggressive defenses in the National Football League. And with them drafting Caleb Banks in the 1st round, as long as he's able to stay healthy, I think he's going to be a complete monster for them in the middle of that defense. Dallas Turner also is coming off a breakout season as well. You still got Andrew Van Ginkel there. There's some good players in the secondary also. But mainly, I have the Minnesota Vikings at 9 because I just got a lot of respect and a lot of trust that this Vikings defense is still going to play at the top 10 level this year with Brian Flores still remaining as their defensive coordinator. The Philadelphia Eagles come in at number 8. I think they're going to have the 8th best defense because although you have concerns about how that pass rush is looking, Jalen Carter is still there, and they still have one of the best secondaries in the NFL, Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell. They picked up Tyreek Woolen in free agency. They traded for Jonathan Gennard not too long ago. He was a guy who was producing double-digit sacks consistently at one point, then just completely fell off the cliff. If there's anybody who could have Jonathan Gennard playing like his old self, it's definitely Vic Fangio, the Godfather. This was a defense that played a lot better last season than what they should have, considering the limitations they had up front, getting after the quarterback. But you got to give a lot of credit to the job that their defensive coordinator has done. And Vic Fangio, as long as he's still there, I think betting on the Eagles to have a top 10 defense is a safe bet. The Atlanta Falcons come in at number 7. Now, I know a lot of you guys are going to say, JT, the Falcons? You think they're going to have a top 10 defense? Are you crazy? Are you drunk? I'm sober, people. You can see my eyes. I'm sober. I'm not high doing this. Yeah, you see it right. The Atlanta Falcons are going to finish with the 7th best defense in the NFL this year. Their defense was very good last year, and it could have been better if their offense wasn't as inefficient. They had James Pierce Jr., who was one of the best rookies in the league last year. This guy gave them 10 sacks. Everybody thought he wasn't going to play football again due to the ugly off-the-field incident that he had, but come on now. You know the Atlanta Falcons aren't going to give up on a guy that gave them their first double-digit sack season since, Vic Beasley? That was over a decade ago. Then you also have Jalen Walker, who could end up breaking out in his second season. Let's not forget about Xavier Watts, who was second in the NFL in interceptions as a rookie, and nobody gave this dude any attention at all. If he was playing for the Chiefs, the Cowboys, a big brand team that was in the Super Bowl hunt, everybody would be glazing Xavier Watts right now. Xavier Watts, to me, is already one of the best safeties in the league, and he also was playing alongside what most could consider the second best safety in the league, Jesse Bates. The Falcons have a good pass rush. They have a great secondary, one of the best secondaries in the NFL. The Falcons defense is very underrated. And if they hope to compete for the NFC South this year, their defense is going to be the main reason why. And I think a lot of people are sleeping on just how good this Atlanta Falcons defense is. They got good pass rushers, great players in the back end of that secondary. You better stop sleeping on that Falcons defense. I got the Buffalo Bills at number 6. Now, the main reason why I have the Bills this high is because of the high amount of confidence that I have in their new defensive coordinator, Jim Leonhard. Now, I know this guy hasn't called plays in the NFL on defense, but when he was Wisconsin's defensive coordinator, he led them to several top 5 finishes, and he should have been their head coach. Instead, they went in a different direction, but after this season, I'm pretty confident he's going to be coaching Wisconsin in 2027, and it's going to hurt to lose him as a Bills fan because this dude is a phenomenal defensive coordinator, a phenomenal defensive mind. I know on paper the Bills don't have the most talented defense in the world, but their defense is pretty solid. Last year, they did have to deal with a fair amount of injuries. I like what they have. And I think with the addition of guys like Bradley Chubb, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Jim Leonhard's going to figure out a way to throw out multiple different looks. He's going to have multiple different roles for a bunch of these guys. Some of these guys are going to be playing multiple different positions in his defense. I'm just very excited about what Jim Leonhard is going to do in his first year calling plays for that Bills defense. I feel the hiring of Joe Brady isn't actually what could get the Bills over the hump. The hiring of Jim Leonhard as their defensive coordinator could be what gets them over the hump because their offense has been good in the postseason. Their defense is giving up nearly 30 points per game in the playoffs. So if Jim Leonhard is as good as what he was with Wisconsin, I don't see how the Bills can end up winning it all this year. At number 5, I have the LA Rams. I was trying to figure out where's a good place to put this team because they don't have the best defense in the league. Sure, getting Trent McDuffie, Jalen Watson, and Myles Garrett improves this defense tremendously, but I don't think that they have the best defense in the league. They got some really good players on the defensive line. They got solid linebackers. This is a very good defense. One of the most talented defenses in the league. I just don't think they have the best. I think the teams above them have a little bit better, and they're a little bit better balanced at certain positions than what the Rams are. But with Myles Garrett, Kobe Turner, Young, Fisk, there's just so much talent up front. And you improve the secondary, bringing in Chiefs corners, Jalen Watson, Trent McDuffie. The Rams defense is going to be legit. They got a very good defensive coordinator who was in the conversation to get several head coaching jobs that came available this offseason. I'm pretty sure he'll be a hot candidate next offseason as well if this Rams defense plays up to expectations. I got the Rams with the 5th best defense in the NFL this year. I got the Denver Broncos at number 4. I think the Broncos are going to end this season once again with another top 5 defense. They led the NFL in sacks last year. They had over 50 total as a team. Jonathan Cooper, Nick Bonito, those guys are still there. You still got Hufanga at safety, Patrick Surtain, and also Vance Joseph is entering his 3rd season as the Broncos defensive coordinator now. So they got a lot of continuity on that side of the ball. Their biggest loss probably was getting rid of Dwayne Greenlaw. That's really about it. So I don't really expect for the Broncos defense to drop off that much. There's just so much coming back, so much continuity with the staff, with the players that are on that side of the ball. At number 3, I have the Seattle Seahawks. Some may say the Seahawks should be at least number 2 or number 1, but I think they dropped just a tad bit. The talent's still there, but they do have a few players that they have to replace in the secondary. Losing Tyreek Woolen, who was a serviceable starter for them, definitely is a loss that they might feel a little bit, but they still got one of the best front sevens in the NFL. You got Devon Witherspoon, Julian Love, and you have the architect of it all, and Mike McDaniel, who has cemented himself as an elite defensive mind. And I think that Mike McDaniel could end up being the Bill Belichick of this generation, just with his mindset as far as how he goes about attacking offenses. I think is second to none as far as defensive minds go. I got the Seahawks at 3, but I'll understand if some of you guys feel they should be higher. I think the Baltimore Ravens are going to have the second best defense in the NFL this year, mainly due to the hiring of Jesse Mentor at head coach, who previously has served as Jim Harbaugh's defensive coordinator when he won a national championship at Michigan in his last few years coaching the LA Chargers. The Chargers had defenses that were a lot better than what they should have been given the talent that they had. They didn't really have a lot of household names outside of Derwin James, Khalil Mack. Jesse Mentor developed several young ascending players on that Chargers defense. Tuli Tuipulotu is quietly becoming one of the most dominant interior defensive linemen in the league. Deion Henley has quietly become one of the more underrated linebackers in the NFL under Jesse Mentor's tutelage. The Ravens, their defense was a massive disappointment last year. They have one of the most talented defenses in the NFL, yet you couldn't really tell with the way that they played at times last year. With Jesse Mentor taking over this defense, they already got the talent. It's just all about him being able to put these brothers in the right spots to make plays, and I feel he's going to do a great job of that, and the Ravens will end up having the kind of defense you expect this franchise to have with everything they have on that side of the ball. They got a great secondary. They add Trey Hendrickson to improve their pass rush. You could have Justin Metabuke back, and if you get him back, oh my goodness, the Ravens are going to be a problem this year. And I think the Houston Texans are going to have the best defense in football this year. Last year was the Seahawks. I will argue and say it was the Texans because statistically the Texans had the best defense in the league. But this year, though, I think the Texans are going to have not just a great defense, I think they're going to have an all-time defense. I think when we look back at this Texans defense 10 years from now, we're going to say, how the hell were they able to get Reed Blankenship and add to an already stacked secondary? You got Kalen Bullock, Kamari Laster, Derek Stingley. Then you got Daniil Hunter, Will Anderson, which was the best pass rushing duo in the league. And they only got better. They didn't really lose any key contributors on the defensive side of the ball during this offseason. So you have a defense that already was elite last year, and they only got better this offseason. This went from being an elite defense to a S-tier defense. I asked somebody how good do they believe the Texans defense is going to be. He said this will be an S-tier defense. I said, yeah, I think that's pretty fair. This could be a historically great defense. I'm talking up there with the 2000 Ravens, the 85 Bears. Y'all may think, JT, you tripping, man. The Texans got a great defense, but they ain't going to be all that. I'm telling you, man, this defense is going to be historically good this year. These are the top 10 defenses that I expect for this season coming up, or these are the teams that I expect to finish with top 10 defenses at the end of this season. Let me know who's too high, who's too low, who got left off this list that you feel should be included. Shout out to everybody that's tuned in. Shout out to my guy, Base Zoe. He says, Panthers NFC Championship game. Shout out to my guy, Trez Top. He says Steelers defense going to bounce back this year. I was very close to putting the Steelers on here, but I think they'll be a top 12 defense. They do have the upside to be a top 10 defense, most definitely, but they were close. They were part of my honorable mention. I had them right up there with the New England Patriots. What are you guys doing up so late, man? Hey, I don't know what y'all got going on, but I appreciate you spending your late night over here on JT Sports. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell icon if you live, eat, breathe, sleep, and die football. We're talking not just NFL, but college football, all things football. If you just can't go a day without getting your football fix, and man, go ahead and make sure that you are subscribed and you got post notifications turned on so you do not miss when we drop new content. The season hasn't even started yet, and the Justin Herbert apologists are already in mid-season form. They're already making excuses for Justin Herbert having another disappointing outing in the playoffs, and yet the postseason is 6-7 months away from happening. But I dropped a recent segment a few days ago stating how I feel with the Chargers hiring Mike McDaniel as their offensive coordinator, this was going to be their best shot at being able to compete for the AFC, because Mike McDaniel is a limited edition item. You know how you go to a fast food restaurant and they have an item that says limited edition, it's not going to be here for long, so you better get it while supplies last. That's what Mike McDaniel is for the LA Chargers. This guy turned down head coaching opportunities to have the privilege of being able to coach Justin Herbert. And with Mike McDaniel being one of the best offensive minds in the NFL, I feel he's going to be able to elevate Justin Herbert to a level of play that we haven't seen Justin Herbert play at. And with the Chargers getting their two offensive tackles back fully healthy, Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt, along with Amarion Hampton being fully healthy, signing Keaton Mitchell, I like what they have at wide receiver with guys like Lat McConkey, Trey Harris. They got very good tight ends. Jim Harbaugh, we know that this dude is a good football coach. It looks like the Chargers have all the ingredients to not just compete for the AFC, but to possibly compete for a spot in the Super Bowl. But for the Justin Herbert apologists, though, he still doesn't have enough. If Justin Herbert struggles in the playoffs again, it still isn't his fault. According to my brother, Jofi Jaffa, who stepped into our comments and had some very crucial things to say about our analysis of Mike McDaniel and what the expectation should be with hiring him, he clapped back and said, this is the first year, right? Can Mike McDaniel's block? Being hit the most in all of football with the worst offensive line didn't matter last year? Question mark, question mark, question mark. Herbert had the best first 3 seasons in the history of the sport. And Mike is supposed to make him do things he has never done, like what the league has never seen before? Yeah, Justin Herbert has never played like a top 3 quarterback. Mike McDaniel, with his play calling, could have Justin Herbert playing at that level to where we now start having conversations. Is Justin Herbert as good, if not maybe better than Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes this season? Yeah, Mike McDaniel had Tua balling. Look at what Tua was doing before Mike McDaniel took over. Brian Flores was bullying Tua. He didn't even want Tua on the roster. Mike McDaniel came around and for a little bit of a stretch had Tua looking like one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL and helped Tua pull off one of the biggest scams in NFL history. We all knew that the Dolphins were making a massive mistake when they gave Tua that huge extension a few off seasons ago, and that's why they're in cap hell. They took a $100 million dead cap hit to get rid of this dude. Mike McDaniel, if he could have Tua playing at a high level before the concussions, before the injuries started to add up, can you imagine what he's going to do with a guy like Justin Herbert who has more superior physical tools than Tua? The offense that Mike McDaniel ran with the Dolphins was built around Tua. It was built to hide his limitations and be able to take advantage of what Tua did well, which was getting the ball out fast, being very accurate, and throwing with elite anticipation. Justin Herbert already is really accurate. He has one of the strongest arms in the league, and he's a phenomenal athlete. So you give a guy like Justin Herbert, Mike McDaniel as his offensive coordinator, yeah, Justin Herbert has never thrown 40 touchdowns in a season. He could do that this year with Mike McDaniel calling the plays. Mike McDaniel is using Justin Herbert to help audition for whichever are going to be the best head coaching vacancies next offseason. If Zach Taylor doesn't get it done, you mean to tell me offense with Mike McDaniel, Joe Burrow, and Jamar Chase wouldn't eat? You mean to tell me you wouldn't be more confident that the Buccaneers could win the NFC South if they had Mike McDaniel as their head coach instead of Todd Bowles? Come on now. He's using Justin Herbert, one of the most physically gifted quarterbacks in the league, to help position himself to get a top head coaching gig next offseason. He came to the Chargers with purpose, and that purpose is to get Justin Herbert playing up to his full abilities, and I don't think we've seen the best of Justin Herbert quite yet. Sure, Justin Herbert, what he has done so far has been very impressive, but for some reason, though, Justin Herbert, despite not having the talent that he needs to win a Super Bowl, he has enough talent to play good in the regular season, make history, like what you're saying, my guy, Jofi Jofa. No quarterback has had a better first 3 years in the league than what Justin Herbert has had, but for some reason, that never translates to him playing good in the playoffs. He's 0-3, which I'm not saying that his playoff shortcomings are all on him. All I'm saying is that you say Justin Herbert doesn't have this, he doesn't have that, but he has enough to put up these good statistics in the regular season, but it never translates to playoff success. That's all I'm saying, but we're about to get to that. Herbert has put up historical numbers before McDaniels even got here. These other QBs get all this help. Rushing game, elite defenses, elite weapons like Purdy and Hurts. Hold up. And this is where you get the Justin Herbert apologists. Because a lot of Justin Herbert apologists will scream at you that Justin Herbert is an elite quarterback. But what makes an elite quarterback is that they can do more with less. Why are we comparing Justin Herbert to Brock Purdy and Jalen Hurts? Those guys need more weapons than what Justin Herbert has, because they're not as good as what Justin Herbert is. Justin Herbert should be able to do more with less if he's better than those two quarterbacks, right? Because I'm pretty sure if I ask you right now, Jofi Joffa, if Justin Herbert's better than Brock Purdy and Jalen Hurts, you're going to say, hell yeah. So Justin Herbert shouldn't need the 2024 Philadelphia Eagles super team to win a Super Bowl if this dude's a better quarterback than them, right? Right? But I guess Justin Herbert must not be as good as what everybody in the national media makes him up to be. Remind you, Colin Cowherd ranked Justin Herbert ahead of Lamar Jackson in his top 10 quarterback rankings. Justin Herbert's supposed to be this elite quarterback, but for some reason, he only looks elite in the regular season, and then come playoff time, he plays his absolute worst football. But let's continue, right? And Herbert has had what in comparison? Herbert doesn't need fixing. He needs what the other quarterbacks have had that he is compared to. Stroud's roster, we don't compare Justin Herbert to Bo Nix, CJ Stroud, Brock Purdy, and Jalen Hurts, because those guys are not considered elite quarterbacks. And even then, Joe Burrow, you talk about how bad Justin Herbert's offensive line was, right? The year the Cincinnati Bengals went to the Super Bowl in Joe Burrow's second season, he was one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the league that year. He had backup starting for him on the offensive line, and yet still was able to get the Bengals to the Super Bowl. You see, I see what you're trying to do, and this is why I always hate when people make all these goalpost moving excuses for guys like Justin Herbert, but they don't keep this same energy for other quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson. When Justin Herbert struggles in the playoffs, when he comes up short, it's never his fault. It's always somebody else's fault. It's always he didn't have this, he didn't have that. Justin Herbert is entering his 7th season in the league, and he's 0-3 in the playoffs. In his last 2 playoff games, he has had much better coaching than what he had early in his career. We know that Brandon Staley sucked as a head coach. Jim Harbaugh is the most legit coach that Justin Herbert has ever played with. Probably the best head coach that the Chargers have ever had. So you got the head coach. Now it's, oh, well, Justin Herbert doesn't have the weapons. Well, he had enough weapons to put up good stats in the regular season. So why was he able to play better in the playoffs? And let's not also forget that Justin Herbert went head-to-head against Drake May. Drake May got sacked 5 times in that game. Sure, Justin Herbert got sacked 6 times. He was running for his life, but same was Drake May. His offensive line was boo-boo. We all saw their first-round pick at left tackle getting ate up like dog food in the Super Bowl against the Seattle Seahawks. Come on now. Drake May was one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the league. Also, you talk about how these quarterbacks that Justin Herbert is compared to have more weapons than what he has. Who was Drake May's most reliable weapon last season? A 32-year-old Stephon Diggs who was a year removed from a season-ending ACL injury. You probably can't name me 2 or 3 more players on that Patriots offense, especially at receiver, without using Google. But somehow, though, despite Drake May not having a stacked team, not having the same weapons that Bo Nix, C.J. Stroud, and some of these other quarterbacks have, was able to get his team to the Super Bowl. But Justin Herbert, though, doesn't have this, doesn't have that, needs this, needs that. The Justin Herbert apologists are already at it. They're already in mid-season form. They're already preparing their excuses for when Justin Herbert has another playoff stinker. And now they're going to say, well, he didn't have that. He didn't have this. You have Mike McDaniel, man. If Justin Herbert isn't balling out with Mike McDaniel, he'll never ball out in the postseason. He'll never do it. Because this is as good as a team as what the Chargers have ever had around Justin Herbert. The offensive line has been improved. They got their 2 starting offensive tackles back. They improved the interior offensive guard. They signed Tyler Biadasz, one of the better centers in the NFL. And Jim Harbaugh is all about trench play. I strongly doubt for another year he's going to allow Justin Herbert to get destroyed the way that he did last season. Jim Harbaugh, this dude admires Justin Herbert. This dude's goal every day he wakes up isn't to win the Chargers a Super Bowl. It's to win Justin Herbert a Super Bowl. This dude has a crush on his quarterback. So this dude is doing everything in his power to make sure that Justin Herbert has a good enough team around him to go the distance. So I'm not trying to hear any more excuses for Justin Herbert. I have given him a pass long enough. I think he has enough to win. And people misunderstand the way that Jim Harbaugh wins. Did the 49ers have a lot of weapons when Jim Harbaugh was coaching them nearly a decade ago? His most reliable weapons on offense when he was with the 49ers was Frank Gore, Michael Crabtree, and Vernon Davis. The only one of those guys who was elite at their position was Frank Gore. The rest of those guys were good. Maybe they had a few great seasons here and there, but they weren't household names like that. Jim Harbaugh wants to win, dominate the line of scrimmage, running the football, and being able to throw the ball when need be. But hiring Mike McDaniel, though, it's kind of like the cherry on top. So with the team Justin Herbert has coming into this season, the brother needs to show up in the playoffs. I'm not saying that the Chargers need to win a playoff game exactly, even though they should. That should be the expectation. All I'm saying is that if the Chargers lose, can Justin Herbert at least go out with a respectable showing? Is the brother going to be able to throw for like 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no picks? Is he going to play in the postseason, win or lose this year, the same way that he will in the regular season? Because for some reason, Justin Herbert always plays his best football in the regular season and saves his worst football for the playoffs. I'm not saying that it's all on him, but eventually we're going to run out of guys to blame. We're going to run out of things to say he doesn't have. And eventually he's going to get them, and eventually we're eventually going to have to be honest and say, okay, maybe it's a Justin Herbert problem. Maybe it's a mental thing. Maybe he just is one of those guys that only plays well in the regular season, and then the stage just gets too big for him in the postseason. I don't know, but the Justin Herbert apologists, they're already in mid-season form. They're already making excuses for the brother, and we haven't even played a single game yet. We haven't even made it to the playoffs. Crazy, man. I can't wait for football to come back. I can't wait for football to come back. And I don't want this to sound like I hate Justin Herbert. I hope that segment didn't come out as me hating on Justin Herbert. I'm just saying, we've given this guy a pass long enough. Eventually, you got to start saying he might be the problem. Because eventually, you can only finger point at so much until we start saying Jim Harbaugh is the problem. Come on now. Jim Harbaugh is the best head coach Justin Herbert has ever been coached by. Eventually, the guy's going to have to start playing better in the playoffs. It's just strange how he plays well in the regular season with this same supporting cast that isn't good enough, apparently, then in the playoffs plays his worst football. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Shout out to everybody that's tuned in. Shout out to my guy, Just People Please. He says, good evening, everyone. Good evening to you, my dude. Shout out to my guy, Rocky Boy Blue 9466. He says, Justin is that dude, but honestly, I'm thinking Super Bowl. He says, bolt the F up. Hey, man, I think the Chargers can win it all, too, man. With Mike McDaniel, I truly believe that this is the Chargers' best shot to compete for a Super Bowl. This is a limited edition item. And if you don't take advantage of it while it lasts, you may not ever be in this position again. Do me a favor, man. If you have any questions, any topics that you would like us to discuss or answer on a future episode next week, add us or send them in the DMs at JT_Sports is where you can find us on Instagram, X, TikTok, along with Facebook. Any questions, any topics, just send them in the DMs, and I promise you we'll get to them on a future episode. And just, if you want to keep up with everything that we have going on with the pod, we post extra bonus content on there as well. Just go ahead and give us a follow at JT_Sports is where you can find us on Instagram, X, and TikTok. Let's continue on. The New York Jets may not be a threat this season, but they could become a threat a little bit later down the road. What do I mean by that? They're not a threat now, but they could be a threat later? Yes, because a lot of you guys are missing what the New York Jets are doing. Look how good the New York Jets have drafted over these last couple of years. They haven't had too many misses. The majority of their starters on offense are guys that they drafted. They have several guys on the offensive line that they drafted, including 2 tackles that are starting for them this year that were former first-round draft picks. You got Garrett Wilson, Omar Cooper Jr., who you drafted in the first round, along with Kenyon Sadiq, who you also drafted in the first round of this past year's draft. You got Breece Hall, Braylon Allen at running back. The Jets' offense is stacked for whoever ends up becoming their next quarterback in replace of Geno Smith. And we know that everybody has their eyes set on Arch Manning. Now, normally, quarterbacks that are rookies that get drafted by the Jets normally have their careers wasted. If you get drafted by the New York Jets, you're going there to be another member of their quarterback graveyard, like how Sam Darnold, Zach Wilson have been recent inductees into. But I think what the Jets have done is completely a 360 to how they've gone about building their team in the past. In the past, when they got guys like Zach Wilson, Sam Darnold, the team wasn't built to win. It wasn't built for a quarterback that has success. They said, we'll get the quarterback first and we'll figure out everything after. The Jets right now with this new regime, they're taking a completely different approach from that. They're saying, we're going to build this team up first, so whoever we draft that quarterback is in the best situation possible for a young quarterback to be in. This is a very talented young offense that the New York Jets have right now. And to be honest with you, this isn't your average basement dweller roster, because the New York Jets, you could consider them to be in the tier of basement dweller teams. These are teams that aren't really going to be competing for anything but pride and respect, and by the time we get to November, they're tanking for a high draft pick. But if the New York Jets end up getting a huge breakthrough from Aaron Glenn in his second season, or they end up firing him, and let's say they hire a guy like Mike McDaniel, or they end up hiring a better head coach, if they get the quarterback right, this team could be a playoff contender as soon as next season. This team is not as far away as what you may think. Sure, it's easy to make jokes about the New York Jets, not really take this team seriously, but this is not a normal bottom dweller roster. They have a good offensive line. They got plenty of weapons. They got a very good supporting cast around their quarterback. Now, the defense still is a work in progress, but they can continue to build that up in the background. They got 3 first-round picks in next year's draft, so you can end up getting a quarterback, another pass rusher, a replacement for Sauce Gardner. I mean, the New York Jets, they're not a threat now, but I definitely expect for this franchise to be a legitimate threat and the foreseeable future, because this team is really just a head coach and a quarterback away from being good enough to make it to the playoffs. And I know that New York Jets fans, you've been tortured for over 16 years. You haven't made it to the playoffs. The last time you made it to the playoffs, Mark Sanchez was your quarterback. But I think with the way that you've gone about building up your team under this new regime, I think that the future is very bright. It may not look like that this season, but the New York Jets are not that far away, people. All they need is a good head coach and to get it right with whoever they draft next year at quarterback, and this team could be a playoff team. And if Aaron Glenn is that guy, then the New York Jets could be a fringe playoff team this year. They may not get to the playoffs, but they could be fighting for a playoff spot because Geno Smith is a massive upgrade from Justin Fields. Justin Fields struggled to even complete the forward pass. It hurt me watching Justin Fields play quarterback last year because he's one of my favorite quarterbacks ever. And at halftime, this guy is getting me killed by my homeboy saying, JT, you told us to take Justin Fields over passing, and this dude only has 32 passing yards at halftime. Finishes the game with 80-something pass yards. Geno Smith may not be that great, but in comparison to Justin Fields, he's a huge upgrade. At least he can get the ball to where it needs to go. At least he can complete the forward pass. So I look at the New York Jets this season. If Aaron Glenn actually improves, I think that this could be a fringe playoff team. If not, then whoever ends up being the next head coach, they are inheriting an incredible situation. You got a very young roster with a lot of young players, and you got a lot of draft capital in the foreseeable future and next upcoming draft. So the Jets aren't a threat now, but they will be a threat later, depending on if they can get quarterback and head coach right. The Seattle Seahawks should be very pissed off right now. They should be incredibly angry that they are the defending Super Bowl champs and they're being overshadowed by a team that hasn't won anything, but the media wants to go ahead and crown them Super Bowl champs anyway, and that team that I'm talking about are the LA Rams. For some reason, all the talk is about the LA Rams. With the way they're talking about the Rams, we might as well not even play the season this year. Just go ahead, cancel the 2026 NFL season, and just hand the Rams the Lombardi Trophy, because everybody is making it out as if there's nobody that can challenge this team. As if the Seahawks aren't the reigning defending Super Bowl champions. And this is the most disrespected a Super Bowl champion has ever been. Because most of the times when you have a team that wins a Super Bowl, all everybody spends the offseason talking about is, can they do it again? Can they repeat? Can they go back-to-back? That hasn't been the case with the Seahawks because the Rams, traded for Myles Garrett and Trent McDuffie, has taken the spotlight away from Seattle. Seattle won the trophy, but for some reason, though, the Rams are winning the spotlight. The Rams made louder moves this offseason than what the Seahawks made. Everybody looks at the Seahawks offseason as net losses with all the starters that they lost, like Kenneth Walker and Tyreek Woolen. And then they look at all the additions that the Rams are making, and they think that the Rams have overtaken Seattle. Seattle, despite the losses, they have drafted incredibly well. They also have made some pretty good bargain deals in free agency. So the Seahawks are kind of like a college team. They lose good players and they replace them with the guy next man up who ends up being just as good, if not slightly a little bit better. And that's how I think the Seahawks are going to win this year. The Seahawks are going to make it back to the NFC Championship because of how well they've drafted, the amount of depth that they have, and them still being able to keep the majority of their championship core from last year. And I think that while the Rams may have a better shot at winning the Super Bowl over these next 2 years than the Seahawks are better built for long-term Super Bowl success than what the LA Rams are, because the Rams are being this aggressive because they know that Matthew Stafford's career is winding down And at most, they got 2 years left with this dude. So they got to go all out while they have him right now. For the Seattle Seahawks, they could become the next dynasty in the NFL. Right now, the only dynasty in the league are the Kansas City Chiefs. But with how well the Seattle Seahawks draft and develop, along with the defensive prowess of Mike McDaniel, why can't the Seattle Seahawks be this next dynasty? They draft well. The majority of their best players are young. So we all are quick to crown the Rams, even though they haven't won a doggone thing. And what Ric Flair used to say, to be the man, you got to beat the man. Woo! And the Rams haven't played the Seahawks yet. And I think that it's been incredibly disrespectful, the lack of coverage and the lack of attention that the Seahawks have gotten after winning the Super Bowl. Not even to mention the disrespect that JSN's getting. Put some respect on this man's name. You're getting his name wrong at the NFL honors. You're letting Drewski make jokes about it. Then you give him the wrong award. I mean, put some respect on this man's name. Like Mike McDaniel said at the Super Bowl parade, put some respect on this man's name, man. The Seahawks, while they may not have as flashy as a roster as what the Rams do, their roster is still good enough to upset the Rams in the playoffs this year. We have to stop making it seem like Super Bowls are won in the offseason. The Rams are the equivalent to a super team in the NBA. You remember when you had that super team that Kevin Durant tried to assemble with the Nets when he linked up with James Harden and Kyrie Irving? That's kind of how the Rams look going into this season. Now, I expect for them to mostly live up to the level of talent that they have on the roster right now, but I don't think there's some automatic lock to win the Super Bowl like how the media is making them out to be. You still have to fear the Seattle Seahawks. You have to give them that respect, because outside of Seattle, who really has a fair shot at being able to slow down the Rams in the postseason? Maybe the 49ers, that's about it. The NFC West determines who ends up representing the NFC in the Super Bowl again. And I think that it comes down to the Seahawks versus the Rams once again. And with Mike McDaniel being a defensive-minded coach, I feel like that gives him the edge over the Rams and Sean McVay, since Sean McVay is an offensive-minded coach. So Sean McVay is kind of like Batman, and Mike McDaniel is kind of like the Joker. You know, the Batman and the Joker are such great enemies because of how their moral philosophies complement each other. They're polar opposites. Same thing with Sean McVay and Mike McDaniel. They're polar opposites. And they always say defense wins championships, right? So I would like to think that the defensive-minded coach will have a lot more success over an offensive-minded coach. And let's not forget that Mike McDaniel's defense has shut down Kyle Shanahan twice. And he's one of the best offensive minds of this generation, just up there with Sean McVay. So while the Rams got better personnel-wise, I think that Mike McDaniel, you know, he's looking at this offense and he's looking at the Rams and saying, you know, last year you guys put some points up on us, but we got a few tricks up our sleeves when we play you this year. But everybody's thinking about Adam Miles Garrett and Trent McDuffie and Jalen Watson, and this is a super team. They're invincible. Nobody can beat them. I think the last team that the Rams will want to see in the NFC Championship this season is a team that already proved that they can beat them once last year. And a lot of people thought that the Rams were going to win that because they didn't have a lot of faith in Sam Darnold. So if we end up getting the Seahawks versus the Rams NFC Championship Part 2, Mike McDaniel versus Sean McVay, I'm not going to lie. I'm going to put my money on Mike McDaniel, because Mike McDaniel is just one of those coaches that, with how elite his defense is, I really don't see how you can't give him the benefit of the doubt if we're trying to figure out who in the NFC has the best shot at being able to stop the Rams. It has to be one of the best defensive minds in the game, if not the best defensive mind in the game, and the same team that the Rams will have to see at that point for a third straight time. And it's very hard to beat a team that you play in the same division 2 times already. Now you got to see them for a third time in the playoffs. I think that the Seahawks are being incredibly disrespected and underestimated going into this year. And I don't care what the Super Bowl odds say. I know they have the second best odds to win the NFC, but it doesn't feel like they're being talked about it in that way. It just seems like it's the Rams and everybody else behind them. It's just a junior varsity team. They don't have a shot. Mike McDaniel, as long as he's around, as long as the Seahawks continue to draft and develop as well as what they have over these last few years, they are good enough to stop the Rams from winning it all this year, despite how perfect their team may look on Irelands.com today. And I think that they're also built to have even more championship success in the foreseeable future. I truly believe that the Seahawks could become the NFL's next dynasty. I had a subscriber that hit me up in the DMs on X, and he asked me, JT, this offseason, I've noticed that you've been a lot more critical of the Atlanta Falcons than you have in years past. Why is this? Because I feel like the Atlanta Falcons got better this offseason. They added much-needed depth. They improved that head coach. Kevin Stefanski is a two-time Coach of the Year winner. He's been to the playoffs. He has a better resume than Raheem Morris. So why is it that you think the Falcons are going to be the worst team in the NFC South? Why are you not having more faith in what Atlanta has done this offseason? Thank you for reading my question if you come across it. Man, I really want Atlanta to be good. I really do. My mom gets upset every time she hears me talk about the Falcons because I was born from Atlanta. She always tells me when people ask where I was born at in Atlanta, tell them that I was a Grady baby for some reason. And I want Atlanta to be good. It's been 8 years since the Atlanta Falcons last had a winning season. But I've just been burnt by the Falcons too many times these last couple of years. And also, I'm not a big believer in Kevin Stefanski. And it's not because of how he handled the situation with Shador. It's more so, I'm not a fan of the Atlanta Falcons doubling down on what already didn't work in the past, which is you're hiring, once again, another second chance head coach. Raheem Morris was a second chance head coach. His first time being a head coach, he fell with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And you're doubling down on that same mistake by hiring Kevin Stefanski. Now, sure, Kevin Stefanski has a better resume and a better track record than Raheem Morris, two-time Coach of the Year. He's been to the playoffs. You got to give him a lot of respect for doing that, especially in the gauntlet that is the AFC North. But the guy has never been able to build off success. He's never been, he's never been able to sustain success. And plus, this guy said Baker Mayfield wasn't good enough. Ends up getting Baker Mayfield kicked to the curb, replaces him with Deshaun Watson, and Deshaun Watson looks like a completely different quarterback than what he was playing for the Houston Texans. Now, not all of that is on Kevin Stefanski, but he does deserve a good amount of blame for that. Because Deshaun Watson, before he got traded to the Browns, before he started playing for Kevin Stefanski under Bill O'Brien, he was one of the best quarterbacks in the league, an MVP caliber quarterback. And the thing with the Atlanta Falcons is that, sure, they added pieces, but they didn't really add anything that really changes how you view this team as far as how good they are now compared to how good they were this year. If anything, they got a little bit worse because you didn't really solve your quarterback issue because you're just saying all we need is decent quarterback play. If you're saying that we need decent quarterback play, we don't need Kevin Stefanski to be the best coach. He's good enough to win the NFC South. You are doing what you've been doing for nearly a decade. You've been doing enough to feel comfortable, and you haven't been doing enough to move the needle, to really shake things up. You just keep going back to the basics. It's just this rinse, wash, and repeat cycle. And I hope that Michael Penix works out. I'm really rooting for Michael Penix to work out. I was high on Michael Penix coming out. I didn't villainize the Atlanta Falcons for making the decision to draft Michael Penix when they already had signed Kirk Cousins. But Michael Penix can't stay healthy. And when he's on the field, he doesn't look bad. But you wonder what the ceiling is for Michael Penix. If Michael Penix puts it all together, where would he rank among NFL quarterbacks? Do you view him as an elite quarterback? Is he a top 5, top 10 quarterback? Or is he a guy that we're talking about the same way we're talking about Bryce Young? This guy doesn't need to be an elite quarterback. As long as he's okay, that's good enough. My thing with the Atlanta Falcons is that your offseason didn't move the needle enough. Your two biggest moves, in my opinion, were drafting Avion Terrell and Zachariah Branch in this past year's draft. I feel like Zachariah Branch could immediately become your wide receiver 2 just with how good he is after the catch with his speed and elite acceleration. And Avion Terrell, I had a first-round grade on him. You reunite him with his brother. When have we ever seen two brothers play on the same team, let alone start on the same side of the ball? That's pretty cool to see. But outside of that, the depth is better, but you didn't make the same moves that the Saints made. No move that you made this offseason is on par with the Saints signing Travis Etienne in free agency, drafting Jordan Tyson in the top 10 of this draft. The Saints got more significantly better this offseason than what you did. Same thing with the Carolina Panthers. While you're hyping up signing depth pieces, the Carolina Panthers are signing an all-pro linebacker, signing Jalen Phillips. You know, they're making needle-moving moves while you're just making moves to add depth. Depth isn't going to win you the NFC South. What's going to determine if you can win the NFC South is if Kevin Stefanski truly can be the best coach in this division, as what his resume may say. And then also, can you end up getting some above average quarterback play? Because if you're getting average quarterback play, what really separates you from the rest of this division? Because from a roster standpoint, you don't have a better roster than the Buccaneers or the Panthers. And right now, odds makers have you as the team with the worst odds to win this division. And that's a little bit shocking to me because the Falcons have what should be a top 10 defense this year. And you also have a really good offensive line, a top 10 offensive line. But it's just outside of Drake London, Bijan Robinson, and Kyle Pitts, you're just asking for the rest of the team to be okay. And that's just something that I can't be excited about. You're telling me to pick the Falcons to win the NFC South again with me having to say that as long as they're okay at quarterback, they can do so? No. With Bryce Young, I'm not asking is he going to be okay. With Bryce Young, I'm asking what's that next step for him? Because last season, he wasn't good enough. He was pretty solid. And on certain occasions, he looked really freaking good, especially when he played the Atlanta Falcons. Tyler Shuck, you know, he could be really good. Baker Mayfield, he's the best quarterback in this division. So it's like, with the Atlanta Falcons, I just feel you're basically trying to tell me to get excited about a team that I've already seen before, that I've already been let down before, because I don't really think there's a huge difference between the team the Falcons have entering this season and the teams that we've seen the Falcons put on the field and underachieve with for the past 2-3 years. The defense is really good. The offensive line is great, but I'm still not that big of a fan of the coaching. I have questions about that, and I still have questions about quarterback. So I don't really see a reason to trust the Atlanta Falcons right now if you're telling me that I have to trust them if they just have good enough quarterback play. You got to believe in Stefanski. It wasn't all his fault. It's just, I'm good, man. I'm good off the Atlanta Falcons. I'm rooting for you, but you still feel like an 8-win team to me. The last thing I want to talk about before we hop on out of here. Look, the NFC South is a 2-team division. Yes, when you Google how many teams are in the NFC South right now, it will tell you 4, but only 2 teams in this division truly actually have the ability to win it. It's not the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. While they have the most talented team in this division and they are the favorites by odds makers to win it, I'm not trusting Todd Bowles. And odds makers, oftentimes, I don't feel like they account for coaching as much as what they should, because the Buccaneers should have won this division last year. And they underachieved because Todd Bowles just is an average coach who has been a beneficiary of coaching in what has been one of, if not the worst division in the NFL. He is the black version of Bill O'Brien. And he also is on his 4th offensive coordinator in 4 years. So the continuity, especially with him hiring the same OC that was responsible for the Atlanta Falcons offense not being that good. So I like the Buccaneers roster. I just don't trust the coach. So if they get a better coach in there, I would trust the Buccaneers. I don't think they got a shot with Todd Bowles. Atlanta, you still got the same 2 problems. You got a good defense, a great offensive line, and 3 really good weapons on offense, but I don't trust the quarterback room that much, and I'm still not that sold that Kevin Stefanski drastically changes the results of last year that much. Atlanta still feels like an 8-win team to me. Right now, this division comes down to the Saints and the Panthers. The NFC South this season is going to be a 2-team race between the Saints and the Carolina Panthers. The Saints, at one point, were the biggest sleeper team in the NFL. Everybody was picking this team as one that could come out of nowhere, win their division, possibly make some noise in the postseason. But the Saints are no longer a sleeper team, because you can't be a sleeper team if nobody's really sleeping on you anymore. They have become such a trendy sleeper pick that they no longer are a sleeper because everybody's picking them as their sleeper team. And Kellen Moore, with how good of a job he did coaching up this team in his first season, vastly overachieving, we all thought that the Saints could go 0-17 last year. And instead, they finished with a pretty respectable record thanks to how good Tyler Shuck was playing, a quarterback that most of us had no expectations at all for. And Kellen Moore had this dude looking like he might be the future. And then you surround Tyler Shuck with some very good pieces at running back, Travis Etienne, Jordan Tyson, Bryce Lance, Oscar Delp in the draft, which gives Tyler Shuck speed and explosion to throw the football to. Now, I'm still on the fence about Tyler Shuck, and the only reason I'm on the fence about Tyler Shuck is because I remember Drew Lock during his rookie season. He flashed just like how Tyler Shuck flashed. He showed a lot of promise. The Broncos won a lot of games with him at quarterback. And then in his sophomore season, he didn't take that next step. It seemed like a lot of defensive coordinators just had the tape on him and they figured him out. I wonder if Tyler Shuck is going to be the next Drew Lock, or if the Saints actually have a legit quarterback that they can build around for the next decade or so. I'm still on the fence about that. Now, I'm still on the fence about Bryce Young. While he did improve a lot last season, he was still very inconsistent. He was heavily volatile. He'll play good against the Falcons and the Rams and then struggle to even have over 100 yards throwing the ball against the Green Bay Packers. Even though I still don't have a lot of confidence in Bryce Young, I still have confidence in the overall infrastructure that the Panthers have around Bryce Young, that this is still my pick to win the NFC South. I trust Carolina's overall infrastructure more than anybody else in this division because Dan Morgan has done a really good job building up this roster in the draft and in free agency. While the Panthers may not be a perfect team, I think they're the most complete team in the NFC South this year. I don't think they have as many holes, as many weaknesses as their contemporaries in the division, minus the Buccaneers, because you don't trust the coaching. It's more so the Panthers' biggest weakness this year is Bryce Young's volatility. But if Bryce Young is more consistent, he can play at a higher level more consistently, then I think that the Panthers not only win this division, but they win it with a little bit of breathing room. They could end up winning maybe 11 games this year, and the Saints come in second place at 9-8. But I wouldn't be shocked if I end up picking the Saints as we get closer to this season, because I still haven't dropped my official record predictions yet. And right now, I'm still fighting between the Saints and the Panthers because I trust the Panthers, but you know, the more film, the more tape I watch of Tyler Shuck in New Orleans, the more confidence I start to gain that, okay, maybe Tyler Shuck is legit. Maybe the Saints can take that next step this year, and they're not a sleeper team that people are just making a sleeper team because they're trying to get ahead of everybody to say that we were first. Because oftentimes you have sleeper teams that really aren't sleeper teams. They just look like sleeper teams in the offseason. Then once the regular season comes around, they're one of the worst teams in the league. But the Saints actually are a legit team. They got some good pieces on defense. Their offensive line is really good. It's just, I would like to see a bigger sample size out of Tyler Shuck before I really go about anointing him as the guy for the Saints. This is it for this episode of the JT Sports Podcast. I appreciate everybody that tuned in. Before you get up on out of here, look, if you live, eat, breathe, sleep, and die football, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell icon so you don't miss when we drop new content. We're talking all things football, NFL, college football, 247, 365. Make sure if you haven't subscribed that you hit that bell icon and you hit that subscribe button. If you think you're subscribed, go ahead and double check and make sure. Follow us at JT Sports _. You'll find us on Instagram, X, TikTok, and Facebook. Any questions, any topics that you would like us to answer in the future episodes, send them in the DMs, add us at JT Sports _ is where you can find us on all social media platforms. If you enjoyed this episode, give us a 5-star review. JT Sports is available wherever you get your podcast from. Apple, Spotify, the links are down in the description below. If you enjoy the content, you want to support the grind, all we ask is that you give us a 5-star review. It's free to do, takes less than 10 seconds to do. And then lastly, we want to talk football with you. Join the JT Sports Discord server. We're talking all things football, whatever time of the day, whatever place. Join the JT Sports Discord server. Link is down in the description. Also, I appreciate you guys for tuning in, and I will see you guys next week with another episode.